Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. The reason we're doing this today, and we're going to do it again tomorrow, and then Thursday and Friday, is because I've always had an issue when great African Americans pass, and it's essentially ignored by mainstream. His obit, obviously, LA Times, New York Times, all these different places like this here. But I also think it's different for African Americans for us to properly pay tribute and unpack the life of someone great. And when you think about film, when you think about what John Singleton, what he put on the screen, I think about Frederick Douglass, how he was very deliberate with taking photos, because he wanted, for the purpose of history, for people to know how black people looked in the 1800s. And then if you compare the portraits of Frederick Douglass, looking very astute in his clothing, to whites of the time as well, people have to understand the power of images and why us framing it is critically important. And that's what John Singleton did.
So the question is...
Speak to that issue.
Well, listen, I mean, first of all, John Singleton was incredible, and his loss is devastating, not just to black communities, but I think to art and culture and film. John Singleton was one of the first to really portray conditions in black communities across America. He was one of the first to demonstrate the process of gentrification, right? I mean, a lot of how I learned about what gentrification was through watching John Singleton movies, where he's bringing social, economic, and cultural issues to the forefront and, in a lot of ways, into the mainstream. And it is true that black artists and black influencers, and not influencers on Twitter, I mean like people who are shaping our society, are not only not lionized while they're alive, but they're also not lionized when they die. And we do have an opportunity to change that. I think we are in a moment where it is important not just to lift up whatever controversies may have surrounded his art, but also to lift up the ways in which he really advanced not only the careers, but the art of a number of black artists that have literally changed the entertainment industry.
And Kelly, that's why I think if you say only doing 8 films, and obviously doing television and producing other films, but it was the folks who he was able to bring in. When you talk about Spike Lee as well, I always make the point when I look at cable news, when I look at the folks who are black, and I'm seeing them on MSNBC and CNN, and I'm going, but I also know when I put them on television first, that was deliberate, because a lot of people don't understand that you can actually impact broader society just elevating people in your space, where you're not necessarily you don't have to be the CEO of a network, but in your space, if you use your space to elevate others, then you can actually change society. And I think when you look at the roll call of people who he put in movies first, and how they've been able to just branch and go on and on and on, and then also replicate what he did, that's how I think you utilize your power. So although he dies at 51, the impact goes far beyond him passing away in 2019.
No, absolutely. Not only did he impact those people who he brought in, he paved the way for people who didn't even know him personally until they were in the space of John Singleton, such as Jordan Peele and Ava DuVernay and other black directors, producers, what have you. The loss is great. The movie that impacted me the most, while a lot of people are talking about, yes, Poetic Justice, Boys in the Hood, the like, my movie is Rosewood, because not only with Boys in the Hood and Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, we saw what black people are like in the era that we were in.
Right.
And then Rosewood taught us that history was really just repeating itself, right? In terms of our status in society, how we had to navigate things, but also the fact that our people were still excellent in that era. And I had never seen a movie in that context before Rosewood. So for me, that's my movie. That's what my impact was.
Mustafa, when you think about what is mine, the reality is when he sent his script for Boys in the Hood, when they said, let's do this, he was adamant, I will direct it. And, okay, think about it. He's 22 years old, just out of film school, major studio, and he says from the get-go, no one else is going to direct this. I am going to direct it. That is important when you talk about owning your voice and controlling the narrative.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think it shows that he had a very early understanding about power and how to make sure that you are pulling all the pieces together, that you are framing out the narrative, that you are telling the narrative, and that you are retaining the rights that are so necessary to make sure that we don't lose control of our stories. When I think about people like Melvin Van Peebles, when I think about Gordon Parks, I put John in that same category because they're telling our stories and they're telling them in an authentic way, but they're also making sure that there's power in that process. And I think that that's so important, and so many people miss that.
Malik?
I actually listened to a lot of the conversation that people have been having about him. I will say my movies. I'm a huge fan of Poetic Justice. In part because Tupac is in that movie, and it's actually, I don't know if that's the only movie that he's ever been in, but
no, he's been in other several.
Yeah, but that was one of the ones that I always remember. And Kelly, you actually got my Rosewood one because my mother and I were talking about this, and that's one of the movies that we think about because it's one of those, there are a lot. For me, it was similar to what. School Days was, when I watched things like Higher Learning, Poetic Justice, because it's talking about specific issues at that time, ironically, that we're still dealing with today. So, I, applaud his legacy and hope that we, in platforms like this, that we're able to use these platforms to really honor our people when they're here, not just when they're gone. So.
Well, when I interviewed him in 2017 at ABFF, we talked about Baby Boy, and he got a huge laugh because I hated Baby Boy. Literally, I saw Baby Boy, and I wanted to whoop Jody's ass.
I didn't like it.
You don't understand. I can't stand sorry ass me.
I don't like Baby Boy.
I can't.
I'm glad you said it.
No. John Holland. He said, no. You were supposed to hate Jody. And so we had this huge, he cracked up laughing when I said, dude, you don't understand. I could not watch Baby Boy for 5 years after it came out. I saw it and was pissed. I was like, John, you don't understand. And so I said, then, when I watched it again, I said, so now, I said, for me now, I said, Baby Boy went from a drama to a comedy. He hollered. He hollered. I just said, look, I said, dude, I wanted to whoop. I was like whoop his ass like Ving Rhames because I can't stand a sorry man. And so we're going to continue our tribute to John Singleton tomorrow. For Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.